Okay, it's 11:20. We are, wait, hold on. Okay, we're good. In regular session, 11:21. And we will make this phone call. Got a back phone.
1-866-365-4406.
And I don't think we're the chair
We're
on
on the
that.
chair. I'm at the chair of the conference call.
Right. Not here.
Welcome to Ready Access by Level 3 Communications. Please enter your access code, followed by the pound sign.
826-3256.
Q. Please stand by. You will now be placed into conference. Good morning, welcome to the call.
Good morning. Can you hear us okay?
We can hear you just fine. My name is Katie Kleinfelder, and then I also have John Larson on the phone.
Well, good morning, good morning. We've got all three commissioners here and citizens and clerks and everybody we need.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I'm sorry about the mix-up last time, and I'm happy it worked out today.
All right. So you're going to give us some information regarding financing.
That's right. So I can start a little bit. So over the last 5 years, we've worked with the county off and on. I work with RBC, the Royal Bank of Canada Capital Markets Division, formerly Susan Good and Mayer. Susan Good is an old public finance firm that was headquartered in Cincinnati since 1887. And that firm was bought in 2007, 140 years after its beginning. And I've been a part of both organizations now, going on 14 years. So just a little bit shy longer with the RBC nameplate and logo than the Susan Good logo. Over that course of time, though, I've worked extensively with the county, has done several debt issuances, specifically note and bond issuances over that time frame, and have sent some information along to Stacy. But since 1990, the total that we've worked on for the county exceeds $35 million worth of securities, dating back to the Human Services Facilities CO ban done in 1990, and then a number of one-year issuances as well as bond issues. The most recent of which was in 2009. We worked on a refunding of securities dated back in time to 1998, and we were refinanced those 11 years later. We saved the taxpayers of the county nearly $300,000 over the remaining life of the bond issue. So with all those successful issuances, we've come to know the county and the area very well. This is something that we've actually worked on quite extensively in the fall of 2013, and then it was kind of put aside from my vantage point at least. And John, you're welcome to jump in here at all as well. But I ran a number of scenarios with the city and the county doing different portions of securities, offering those securities as general obligation and or sales tax back, specifically for the county's portion, securities and different types of amortization that would be afforded with the sales tax and the budget that the county has set aside, also some money from the various court fees as well. So there were a number of iterations that I provided to Commissioner Zoller at the time, and attended a meeting in Bascom, again, fall 13, and all of these different runs and various scenarios anticipated different sizes of buildings, whether it's 40,000 or 30,000, and we were trying to also see different structures as far as percentages responsible by the city and county, 66, 33 versus 75, 25 percent, etc., and on those amortizations respectively. And also in the midst of all of this, there is a debt limitation, obviously, review that John can talk on specifically. From a legal standpoint, there are both constitutional as well as statutory limits. And then there's a practical limitation because of the overlapping subdivisions that we also worked pretty extensively on to make sure that we were, obviously those limitations were being addressed. So with that summary of some of the history, John, I open it up to you, and then potentially we'll just open it up to the county to talk a little bit more about the current status of the project, size, timing, and move on from there. So John, I'll turn it over to you, please.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm John Larson. I am a partner at Squire Patton Bond, formerly Squire Sanders and Dempsey. And I have worked with the county on its financing matters for about the last 25 years, maybe a few more. I am sort of here as a resource and happy to help on issues that you all would like to discuss this morning. Just to, I think we all have discussed at one point or another the county will have the ability to finance its portion of this project. I think, unfortunately, that because of the situation with the indirect debt limitation, sometimes called the 10 mil limitation, the method of finance will be almost certainly through the issuance of sales tax revenue bonds rather than general obligation bonds that would be unvoted. But under the circumstances, and Katie can speak to strength of credit, that is not going to have a huge detrimental effect on your ability to finance it or your costs.
Okay, Katie, Mike Kirshner, how are you?
Good, very good.
What is the typical, and I know we're talking about credit worthiness as well, but what is the typical difference, what's the spread between a general obligation and a sales tax-backed bond?
In the past, that's ranged from 25 to, 45 basis points. I would say it's inside 50, but, going figure at 25 basis points.
So it's some significance, I mean, it's material. And would this issuance be well, first of all, the most likely scenario at this point, there's a number of scenarios, but the most likely scenario is $10 million total cost, $7 million financing. So that's pretty much where we need to price things to understand the deal. Is this then a bank qualified bond?
It is.
Okay. And is there anything that we could do to prompt, as John mentioned, the 10 mils, is there anything we can do to put ourselves in a position where we could issue a general obligation bond?
Well, yes, only from the extent that you amortize the debt sooner than the requirement really puts you over the 10 mil.
Okay.
So to back up, the 10 mil requirement is an annual debt service test of both debt, principal, corporate, and interest costs as compared to the assessed valuation of the respective overlapping subdivisions. So when you take that ratio and divide it by the assessed valuation, debt service divided by assessed value, that's that 10 mil limitation we're talking about. And so long as you budget can afford to amortize the debt quicker than that MAD debt service would exceed, so I believe that's in 2031, if I'm correct. So if you'd amortize the debt sooner than 16 years into the future, or quicker than that time frame and could afford the budget cost of a 16-year amortization, respectively, on that $7 million, that's the test, that's the linchpin.
Yeah, I don't think we can. Now, is there anything you can do to balloon it at that point?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything you can do to, let's say, amortize it over 30 and balloon it in 31? Amortize it over 30 years and, okay,
John, so why don't you talk a little bit more about the test?
okay.
Yes, no, I do not believe you could successfully balloon it.
Okay, I just didn't, I was trying to figure out a way that we could avoid it.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, truthfully, the way you could do it, potentially, is through a refinancing of other subdivisions that, and a lease financing as opposed to an unvoted general obligation financing. But, the result would be probably somewhat increased cost to them.
okay, all right, well, we talked about going to, an entity and asking them to restructure their debt so that we could have a general obligation, but the probability is that's not gonna happen.
Right.
All right, so what does, you said the differential in price between a sales revenue and the general obligation is somewhere between 25 and 50 basis points. Katie, have you done any amortization on $7 million, or this is just new to you here?
Yeah, no, I have not.
Okay.
But I will say that the schedule that I provided Commissioner Zoller in the past, we're about 50 to 70 basis points better in the market today than we were back in October of 2013.
Right.
So I'd be happy to run those. And let me make a point of clarification. The $7 million, so it's a $10 million project, $3 million of which is cash finance, is that correct?
That's pretty much the truth, yes. I mean, the city's got a part of it, we got a part of it, but we can figure out our percentages if you just give us a $7 million AM.
Yeah, the 7 million, Katie, this is Commissioner Zoller here. The 7-year AM, that doesn't take it into account the $500,000 zero interest loan, so it's gonna be really, about 6.5 million is what the borrowing's gonna be, but
All
from
right.
an amortization, I agree with the look at the 7, but I think when we get right down to brass tacks, I think it's gonna be closer to 6.5. And
Well, yeah, once we get,
I can ask a question too. The numbers we're talking about is county share only, or is?
no, that's the total
No,
project.
total, and it's basically, it's gonna be broken down, I'll give it.
Well, I know, John, I know elected officials aren't the smartest people in the world, but, once we get to 7 million, we can figure out percentage and know what our cost is gonna be from there.
Well, but I think the city would have the authority to issue unvoted general obligation debt.
Oh, I see.
And
Yeah.
share the
Oh,
cost
okay.
of the project, so that will affect your overall amortization.
Yeah, got it, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, they will probably do something separately, and I think they've already been in contact with Katie, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So your portion of the 6.5 million is what percentage?
About
So that
63%.
Project fund appropriately and then amortization.
Well, no, of the financing portion, it would be 75%.
Okay, yeah.
63% of the project, I know all those numbers been floating around, but.
Well, the judges
Okay, so
did,
what I'll do is I'll prepare a P&I and debt service and then break it out to 75% versus 25%, so you can see, should they mirror your transactions, what the cost would be. And I would like to do those, just a run on the 75% to show you the sales tax, because clearly, obviously, the city doesn't have a sales tax back ability.
Yeah, we can, if the judges
Something
are,
else that I want to point out about that 25 basis point spread,
yes, ma'am?
the fact that sales tax, recall that is obviously the lion's share of revenue source for the county.
Yes.
And as definitely articulated in Moody's methodology, so this would be the credit rating service that has the outstanding credit rating on the county. With that being the primary source of revenue, although we may have to belt and suspender it potentially by having like a debt service reserve fund, that's a maybe. That's not a for sure, but that's a maybe. given the credit level, I think that the sales tax revenue pledge would likely come on top of the current credit rating of the general obligation of the county. And if that's the case, the disparity would be marginal between the cost of financing, meaning you go in the market, sell a AA3 rated security GO-wise, you sell a AA3 rated sales tax wise, you know, what's the difference because of the name and the specific nature of the revenue pledge? And in the past, that was a lot wider. Credit spreads are very narrow right now in comparison to where they blew out during the Great Recession.
Right.
So
Well,
my suggestion to you is that we'll be on the narrower side should the credit rating come in on top of the GO base because of the pledge, the strength, the size of the revenue we're talking about as a percentage of your budget overall. And I just think that it's not going to be as unpalatable as it could be in different types of markets.
how active is the BQ market right now?
Extremely active. There have been a lot of refinancings getting done. The market overall, we're on pace to do about a 450 billion, that's with a B, amount of issuance in the U.S. this year alone. January through April in particular were gangbusters weeks and months. We had $10 billion worth of securities being priced in the muni market. You saw a lot of refinancing because of the low interest rate environment again. That's to say, though, that May kind of went away. We did not print the average volume, but June, July are very heavy redemption months, interest payment-wise. On your own debt, you see that, and there will be, obviously we're still going to watch this in June and July, but with that redemption money coming back, will it be reinvested into munis and absorb the supply that's available to drive down rates again?
Well, I just didn't know the mix in the bank's investment portfolios. I know that many of them are getting away, are more heavily towards other issues than bonds.
Yeah, I would say, especially with the recent ruling, we're going to see how this practically affects, but there's a ruling by the federal, I believe it's the Reserve, about what's considered high-quality liquid assets, or HQLA asset strength, and some munis have been considered preferred and high quality, and they were revised with the new standards. So I know that's always still, actually, some of the industry, CFOA, for example, and others are promulgating even more push that other municipal assets are considered HQLA as well under those standards for liquidity post-Dodd-Frank legislation. So, I still think it remains to be seen, but yes, the banks are buyers for sure.
Well,
Conclusion.
just from a positioning standpoint, a practical standpoint for the banks, I mean, they're trying to become asset sensitive because obviously the next move is up. So they want to make sure that their portfolio at least reacts positively if rates do move up. The bonds sometimes won't let it do that. So it's a little bit of concern.
So from here, as far as debt amortization wise, I think, I have my marching orders for size. Can you talk to us a little bit about the timing and the need to close on securities? When do you need to begin the financing process, or I should say to end the financing process? When do you need cash?
I think best case scenario right now, Mike talking again, is that we're trying to get it to the point where we can bid it in the fall and start the project in the spring. So, whatever that means month-wise. You can't get the financing in place until 6 months before the project begins. Is that right, or is that wrong?
John, why don't you address the reimbursement resolution?
Yeah, a few things. One, you must enter into contracts requiring you to spend at least 5% of the amount you borrow within, and those contracts have to be entered into within 6 months after the borrowing. So, assuming that even before construction begins, you'll be dealing with design professionals and contracts for them. I think you'll find that you will not have an issue of satisfying that requirement.
5% of the amount borrowed or 5% of the project cost?
5% of the amount borrowed.
Okay. Yep, okay.
Yeah, but we've got that 500,000, there's a time limit on that that has to be spent with. So I mean, it's obvious that we wanna procure this bonding as soon as possible, but we have acquired, or the COG has acquired a $500,000 zero interest loan for 12 years for this project. And I think there's a time limit on when that has to be spent. So that means we would have to spend that plus an additional 5% of the project before we can acquire the bonds then.
No.
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 Yes.
A few things. No, that's, you must simply enter into contracts that will eventually require you to spend 5%.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's no problem. We can get that done, John.
I'm sure you can.
We can
Uh,
get
but-
that done, we
do
can
we-
get that done today if you want.
Do we need them to be looking at 6.5 instead of 7 because of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with Stacy, she could be talking to Katie and we can come up with 2 or 3 different scenarios. It doesn't take that much. It was a change in software to do it, so.
Yeah.
Well, but
Okay.
I'll tell you, my concern is we can't look at 75-25 because the county is not picking up 75% of the loan repayment.
Well, it
The
doesn't-
judges are
whatever-
picking up.
okay, I get that. But, you know, if it's 75% of 75%, we can calculate it, so we
Okay,
know what our
okay.
base is gonna be.
And by the way, I was just working on the behind the scenes on those numbers. So 75% of 6.5 million is a $4,875,000 contribution of financing for the county alone, and 5% of that number is 243,750. So I think John, I think everybody said, you know, can you enter in a contract within 6 months obligate the 243,000? I think the answer would be uniformly yes, especially with the architect.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can proceed with the financing as quickly as possible if we can get this thing rolling and get absolute answers from the city.
Because interest rates are going up, and the sooner the better to secure the financing, I would think.
Yeah, we did a long view of best time sent to the market on a monthly basis and looked back over 25 years. Our quant team did this and presented this on a 350-person department-wide phone call about a month ago. And it was very interesting information. The 2 best times that interest rates seem to be in our issuers' favor are October and January. So if we could line up for a pricing in October, which at this point in the year in June, to be able to prepare, obviously have back and forth on the financing determination, sales tax, LPGO, et cetera, and then and move expeditiously with a offering circular rating and into the market to price in October. I don't see that being an issue.
How much of the anticipated 25 basis point increase from the FOMC has been put in the market already? Is there, how much?
I'm sorry,
how much of a
25
movement?
is what?
How much of it or has already been absorbed in the market? How much have bonds increased over the past 3 months?
Oh, really, in the last month or so, it's been about 35, but it's come back about 10 just last week alone. We've
Okay.
seen a pretty good clip recently. It'll be interesting this week. It's going to be a selling week. There's another $10 billion print week.
Okay.
You have DC in the market for $650 million. You have New York in the market regularly. State of Ohio has an issue. Large. I'm talking in the multi-$100 million camp. And I think that the next 2 to 3 weeks about, you know, given the supply demand factors of redemption money versus what's available to buy, I'm betting in the tune of the issuers right now to drive down the interest rates a little lower than they had picked up in May.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, let's, I mean, what is the next move for us? To make a decision, we wanna go forward?
Katie,
And
I think Katie will do the amortizations and
Okay.
talk to Stacy about it. Stacy will show those during the course of the week, and then we'll look at them again next week.
Yep.
Yeah, from my end, just, we have a, two-pronged kind of, marching orders. One, we have to work on what's called a G17 letter that just talks about the, role of an underwriter with the county. And I will be sending that to Stacy. And then the second thing, to be able to run those various amortizations, that has to be executed. Because in the event that we do end up serving as underwriter, which will proceed, or pardon me, post, after the legislation for the bond itself, we have to be able to have that document executed, and then I can provide various amortization schedules. It protects RBC to be able to serve as an underwriter in the future. Since July 2014, these letters are required by underwriters to be sent to potential clients and executed in the event that we serve as underwriters.
Okay.
All right. And
Gotta ask you, Katie, how's the baby? Last time I seen you, you were like,
She hasn't delivered yet.
oh, yeah,
Well, and
that
thank
was.
you for asking, Commissioner. I'm actually due with my fourth. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. I have 3 children, 6.5, 4.5, and 1.5. And the baby girl is doing awesome. Bryn Elizabeth is the light of my life. She's hilarious. She's just getting language, and I'll put Stacy a picture. But yes, we are expecting a fourth to come the first week of August. But I will be returning during this time frame. So it's we're in a great place. My husband and I are very blessed.
Hell, I was just asking about the last one. I didn't know you had another one. Remember, 2.5 years ago, you were like,
yeah, we'll wear a mask.
yeah, absolutely. You were walking very slow that week.
Well, I'm a Kleinfelder and German Catholic, so at least that's what I married.
No more said. No more need said.
John, I'm of the understanding from city council members that were at our meeting earlier, they're gone now, that there's some discussion with your group about possibly meeting with a joint group of us either Thursday or Monday?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thursday.
Oh, it's Thursday, okay.
I have told them that we could be there on Thursday evening, and that was one of the times they had given us.
Okay, wonderful. I was just gonna say, yeah, we'll be anxious to hear that. Okay, so.
John, I've
Thursday.
got, 3 words for that, or saying, be brief, be sincere, and be seated, please.
Well, I think you know me. No, we'll be brief.
Good.
All right, again, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Sorry for having to delay it a little bit based on our schedule here, but I appreciate all the information.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, just, one thing I want to make sure is under the direct is that we're also talking with Bill Robertson about this financing. So we have had a couple of conversations. As it relates to RBC and Season Good and Mayor, Katie is correct in that Season Good and Mayor has been the main group that had financed a number of projects here. However, many of the people from Season Good and Mayor went to another firm in Cincinnati and Dayton after RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, purchased Season Good and Mayor. And also remember that RBC is just what it says. It's a bank from Canada. And that's who would be doing the bond issuing or the bond financing, if you will, if we chose them. The firm in Cincinnati, Dayton, that many of the people from Season Good and Mayor went with, the company that this county has worked with over a long period of time, is a locally owned company.
With
Ohio-
ties
Ohio-owned
to,
company.
yeah, with ties to, actually to Tiffin.
With ties to
With ties, actually, because I've been dealing with them. Joseph Roberts has been very, very helpful. Not that Katie had. Katie, she was going on pregnancy leave when this thing was all started some time ago. And
I just wanted to make sure that everybody realized that there was some, even though we may have dealt with the firm that is now RBC for a number of years, you know, do you deal with the firm or do you deal with the people? That's the question.
I think this concludes all of our business, other than we have a need for another executive session. We'll have no intentions of acting on any business after that executive session, just FYI for everyone else, but we'll need to go into executive session to finish or to do the other topic of personnel-related things. So a motion to do so.
public comment.
Oh, public comment, Tom.
I just have a little comment in my head, I guess, about the county vehicles. How many vehicles set in the lot on a given day don't get used? This is what I'm thinking. Would it be possible with the dealership here in town, or the dealers in town, to rent a vehicle or lease on a daily basis, just today or tomorrow, get a vehicle? Would that save the county money? Could that save the county some money? Not buy an extra vehicle sitting around.
Well, ours pop up, like victims' assistants, if they get called over to court in Fostoria, she'll just come over here. Like, they try and give us a schedule of when they need it, but sometimes it's just
Sometimes
I have to go now. Or
Okay.
Jim Jarrett over at Juvenile Probate Court, he'll get a call that he needs to go check on a kid, and all of their vehicles are out, so he'll come over here and just take ours.
Well, it's a point well made though. How many days do we have? I don't know, how many cars do we have out here? 3 or 4?
Three.
Three? How many days are those 3 cars to sit there?
And some of the other ones out here, the other day, there was only 2 sitting out here, and they were the R2.
R2.
Actually, one of them might even been called
R2D2?
R2D2, whatever. They were all, because they said along the wall, and they said, wow, there must be a lot of people on the road today, because like I said, those aren't all under us.
Right.
But there's a
Well,
lot
I mean,
of
Tom makes a good
things
point,
there,
you know,
yeah.
that
Well,
certainly you
I'm
could
sure it costs more to rent a car per day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no question about
But
that.
it's still probably cheaper than buying insurance and have it set in a lot.
Well, especially in the light of the conversation regarding renewing and having something newer and available.
Yeah.
So it's possible that, you know, rather than having 3 cars here, if we had 1, but also had to deal with Compass or Ford or somebody that, you know, we could go get one at any point. Had a pre-signed lease agreement, somebody initials when they go pick it up as easily as possible. I mean, it's a good something to at least have a discussion about,
Yeah.
yeah.
Be interested to keep a log for a couple months, that way we can see, then determine how much usage.
I mean, we can print you out the calendar that we keep track of
I
the
mean, pretty much
vehicles
all of
on.
June we have.
But from a visual standpoint, I see that red one is there 95% of the time. I mean,
Red one's actually the one that gets used the most.
Really?
Yeah, and usually it's because if victims' assistance uses it, they don't always need it all day. They'll go to Fostoria either early in the morning or late in the afternoon. And then
well, it
come
might be that
back.
some of us get here so early that it's there. That stays so late that it's back by the time we leave. That could be it.
Who would that be?
Some of us aren't you.
So, for executive session, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second it.
And second, that we go into executive session, call the roll.
Commissioner Kushner,
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller.
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy.
Yes, it's 11:54.